Hello, everybody. Sorry, I'm a couple minutes late.
Hey,
Go dig up my power cord. How is it going? With
good.
like, I meant more like with your work and not just in general, although in general too. I care about how things are going for you, but the writing, I hope progress is being made for the number one, the drafts for the 7 of you who have not yet turned in your draft jobs report. Those are due. I encourage you to get those in by, what day is today? Today's Wednesday. Thanks. Get those in by Friday so that you have at least the weekend to work on the final version. And the sooner the better, because I can get you some feedback, at least some feedback, maybe not greatly detailed feedback, before you need to turn in the final version, because I want to move on to the grants and the grant proposals next week. Okay, so there's your reminder that that needs to happen. And hopefully the time that we took on Monday to work on the abstract and hopefully the references by now have been sorted out, right? The hardest thing about the references is just doing the formatting. In your initial research for the jobs report, you should have come up with some good references to at least start with, to include in your references list. So really, those should be done by now. And I told you that you could turn in the references with the draft report. That's fine. But if your draft report isn't done yet, you should submit the references separately so that I can get you some feedback. And then you can start incorporating that into the final version, right? Same thing with the abstract. I can get you some feedback so that you can finish the abstracts for the final version. Even though I didn't ask you to submit that with the draft version. Okay, so turn in as much as you can, and maybe even if it's just a partial draft report, maybe that's better than not turning in anything at this point. This week you should turn in something to give me a chance to get your feedback so that you can benefit from that. I have put I hope that you all are using my feedback in the way that I intend you to use it. And that is in part, not just to correct things. Yes, that's part of what you're doing in here, is learning to write better. But to also learn from the feedback, learn how I'm changing your sentences so that you can catch it yourself and improve your own work. I have a feeling that 90% of you are not editing your own work before you turn it in. Meaning, I think that you're doing the work, and maybe I'm wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems that there are enough typos, spelling errors, and just like the same mistakes over and over again, that I don't feel like you're taking that last step before you submit something to actually read it through one more time and to make some improvements. Thinking about making improvements, not just, is this done? That is going to come into play today, and I hope that you can practice using my feedback today, because I saw that nobody had turned in the revised letter to the editor yet. So we're going to take today's class to do that. And has anybody already started on that, or is that also on your long to-do lists.
I'm almost finished with it. I have probably like 20 minutes more worth of work to do on it.
That's great. Okay, I'm kind of surprised that there's that much, if you've already started working on it, that there's that much left to do. But if you're digging back into your sources, then I understand. Please go on to, I think I gave you your feedback in iLearn and not on Google Drive. I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Yeah, it was on iLearn.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Please go to iLearn, and I don't know how you even navigate to this stuff, but to the original letter to the editor. I think you can go into the grade book and then click on it there if you don't know which week it was in. But we're going back several weeks now. We're going back I think it's pre-spring break. Must be. I'm looking this up for no reason, and you know exactly how to navigate there. There it is. Week 7. So going into there, going through carefully. So if you gave me a Word document and everybody did, great, everybody did. Then I turned on the track changes, and I gave you feedback in form of the track changes as well as comments on the side. Go through those. I'll give you like 15 minutes to start in just a moment. For now, just listen up. So I'll give you some time to look through the comments, to ask me questions, and then I'm gonna set you free on improving those letters. The one thing I don't want you to do is just click through and accept every single change, or to go up to the top and accept all changes without going through it first. Half of the point of this is learning from your mistakes. And we do more I think, honestly, we learn a lot more from mistakes sometimes than we do from doing things all right the first time. Not that I'm saying your letters were fine, but apart from so there were some similarities that I noticed amongst everybody, and they're the same things as always. It's the prepositional phrases that you're including at the beginning of your sentences, sometimes really long ones. And I can pull up some examples, but I think you know what you're talking about, know what I'm talking about. You introduce your sentence with this big long phrase, and then you hit your subject and your verb. And I think I highlighted those for everybody in bright yellow, and I made some comments, so you can't miss them. If you're doing that, number one, if it's a short parenthetical phrase, like going back to 2010, or I'm not thinking of examples right now. I didn't sleep particularly well. It's a phrase of 2 to 3 words sometimes before you actually get to the subject. Delete those. They are not necessary. It is a rare occasion where you actually want to keep the howevers, the therefores, the in the meantimes, the whatever that might be. So just delete them. They don't add anything to your writing. And in fact, it it's not efficient. It doesn't, I think it makes it worse, actually. It's not like it doesn't improve the writing. It doesn't make it sound, I don't think it improves the sound of it either. So where there are those short words or phrases at the front, see if deleting will actually improve. And oftentimes I think you'll find that they do improve. Your sentences improve after that. If it is a long phrase, if it is practically a sentence in and of itself before you get to your subject and your verb, I've told you before, and I want you to implement that today. Take that long phrase. I guess I need to have hands over here. Take that long phrase, move it to the end of the sentence, and then rewrite the sentence to start with your subject and verb. Because these are the instances where the subject and verb are buried halfway through. And those are not well-written sentences. So just swap places and do a tiny bit of rewriting, and it will be a huge improvement for those sentences. Okay, so there's that. There's the parenthetical phrases. There is, and I already mentioned what I suspect is a lack of editing before you submit. And like 5-10 minutes would make a huge improvement, just going through things and spotting where a sentence is out of place, or spotting a run-on sentence, or I find sentences without verbs sometimes. Verbs are pretty important. So yeah, a read through will help in a lot of those instances. I said that also adds in my second bullet point was make sure you keep your subject and verb at the beginning of the sentence. So those two sort of play together. And what's my third one? There's always a third one. I don't remember exactly, except to say oftentimes if you can reduce the number of words, you improve the sentence. Saying in addition to instead of just and, in order to instead of just to. When you start using multiple words to do the job of what that one word can do, you want to replace it with the one word. Okay. Any questions about those things before we dig into this?
Yeah, sure. So just to clarify, like a lot of this advice is specifically for like scientific writing, right? Because if we're trying to write,
No, I don't think so. I think this is
So-
general purpose advice, frankly.
okay, all right.
I mean, the reducing the number of words to keep a sentence short. Okay, yeah, that pertains more towards scientific writing, especially if you're trying to write something that is more narrative, that is more descriptive. Then that kind of, those two work against each other. But in general, for your writing, I think it will be a lot clearer following those pieces of advice.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Sure.
So feedback on our abstract and the letter to the editor, but we said we're going to review the letter to the editor.
You're breaking up a little bit, but we're going to look at the letters to the editor right now.
Yeah. Should I go to my grades on iLearn? Is that how I access your see your comments?
You go to iLearn, yeah. So it was in week 7 that you turned this in. You go back to the original, you go back to your submission. And then you should see I attached a version of the Word document to I have like a short little box that I can type notes into. I typed some notes in there, gave you a score, but also attached a document. And I don't think I changed the name of the document this time from what you uploaded. So just go download that or open it and take a look. You might need to turn track changes on. I promise it's there.
Should it be under submission comments or?
I don't know what your view looks like, I'm afraid.
Oh,
Does anyone else know what it looks like?
You just have to scroll all the way to the bottom. There should be another file.
Thank you.
oh, I see it. Thanks, Manny.
Great. Thank you for that. I did not know that. Okay, so let's take 15 minutes or so to about 12:35 for you to go through my comments, to read, to one by one accept changes after you see what I did or what I said. And then we'll regroup, okay? I'm gonna mute myself here so that you don't hear all the construction noise. And but just give me a shout if you want to ask me anything, because I'll just be here waiting, listening. Oh yeah, one last thing. At least one person hasn't turned in a letter to the editor. If that is you, you should go and work on your jobs report right now instead. Okay, it's been 15 minutes. Did everyone get enough time to go through those? Or do you need more time?
I could use a little bit more time.
Okay, can I, before I set you free for another 5 minutes, I swear that I've looked at your abstracts, the ones that were submitted on Monday, I think. Did I already give you feedback? Did I already send some of you that feedback? Because I can't find it
Yeah.
any.
I think so.
The abstracts are on Google Docs.
On Google Docs, that's where I did it. Thank you so much. I wondered where that was because I could swear I'd seen them. Thanks. I'll go there.
Yeah, I
Okay.
got my feedback after like an hour, I think, after leaving the class or something.
Super. Yeah, I didn't get them all done that quickly, but yeah, good. All right, so take another 5 minutes and see if you can finish going through my edits. Okay, I realize some of you are gonna need longer than others to go through my comments because I just left more comments for some of you than others. Um, There are a couple things to keep in mind. I want to make sure that your letters are formatted correctly. And I gave you a template for the letters within the materials that I distributed or through iLearn. That had a template that had a couple of examples of template letters. You can use those. I will dig those up again and share them through, I'll put them on iLearn and share them through the chat as well, just to make sure that you have that at hand as you're making your changes. So I want this to be formatted, not like an assignment, but as an actual letter. Okay, so actually include the name and address of the person that you're writing to, and address them, include a date, include, it doesn't have to be your actual signature if you don't want to share your signature. So instead, for those of you that didn't have a signature, I used a fancy font to make it look like a signature. But you should add in your contact information at the bottom. Again, I can look that information up, so you don't have to be worried about sharing information that's private. I can get to it if I need to. So you can go ahead and put your addresses on these. But if you don't want to, make up an address. I don't really care, but I want there to be an address there, and probably like a phone number too, email address as well, that, because I think all of you said something about, oh, please contact me if you want to know more or something like that. So make sure it's complete, the letter. And then there's the writing, the actual content. Almost everybody did not get to the point of the letter soon enough. So that's important. Even though you're introducing yourself and the reason for the letter, you're introducing that at the beginning, you're not actually telling the person, telling whoever you're writing to, the representative, or I think all of you wrote to representatives, or like a senator, a House member, or the president, maybe somebody local, a local representative, state representative. If they, that person is probably not going to be reading it right away. It's going to be one of their staff that's going to be reading these letters. They get passed on, I think, if it's important. But the staff do the initial vetting first. You want that person to know why it's important right away, so that they keep reading and read more carefully. So switch your letters up, or add a new sentence at the very beginning that sounds something like, and you can say this in a lot of different ways, so it doesn't have to be just like how I'm giving you an example. I am writing to you to ask that. I am writing to tell you about, if it's a bill that you want them to vote yes on or vote no on, I am writing to ask you to vote no on Senate Bill SB 1097 that asks blah, 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 blah. Then you can introduce yourself or give the reason why you care about that bill. A little bit of both of those should probably be in the letter, at least briefly at the beginning. That's what the first paragraph is for. The second paragraph is most of the meat of the letter. That's where you put in the details, the reasons supporting your request that they vote yes or no on that bill, or that they do whatever you're asking. So make sure that it's structured in that way. It's good if you can break it down into 3 paragraphs, the introduction, the body that has the supporting evidence, information, and then the end where you sign off and, you know, say, oh, please contact me. You know, I would hope, I'm crossing my fingers that someone comes up with a way to sign off on one of these letters that is less kind of rote, or less, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, I'm not going to think of the word I'm after. Kind of everybody says, please please contact me if you would like more information. And it's, you know, everybody writes that. Does it mean much? Not really, because are they really gonna, is your senator really gonna write back and say, oh, Joe, how you doing? Thank you for writing your letter. Probably not. So if you can come up with something more creative, great. Or you can just reiterate, instead of saying that, you can reiterate the reason why you are writing. You know, again, please vote no. Or yeah, okay. So keep those in mind as you're revising these letters. Some of you may need to go dig back into, I want to say the literature, but find whatever website that has more information about your topic so that you can include a few more details or more specifics to support your case for voting yes or no. And that's fine, but I would like you to focus today on the rewriting. Again, the shifting, the deleting of those introductory phrases to your sentences, or the shifting, you know, swapping the beginnings to the ends and vice versa. Are there any questions about my feedback so far?
I don't have any.
Thank you. You can always ask something privately in the chat if you want, of course, or you can always send me an email too. But please work on this. I also gave 6 of you, so it might even be the 6 who are here, feedback on your abstracts. So please, if you're done with the letter, for example, and you're ready to submit the final version, go ahead and upload that into this week, and then go shift over and work on the abstracts for your jobs report. And do the same thing. Look at my feedback, incorporate it, make sure you read it all, learn from it. And then if you're done with that too, that's when you jump over and work on the jobs report itself, either the draft if you hadn't turned that in yet, or the final version. So I think there's plenty to do for everybody who's here. And I've encouraged you to please work on the current assignment first and foremost. Like right now, I'm asking you to do the letter and just get that done and turn it in. But when you're done with this, with that, then I want you to move to the jobs report and work on any aspect of that. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to give you more time. I'll check in again with you in a little bit. If anyone wants to send me a draft of anything to look at, or if you've submitted something more recently, like in the last week or so, and haven't gotten feedback on it yet, would you let me know that it's sitting there waiting for me, and I will go hunt it down to get you that feedback? Okay. All right.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks.
Good. Thank you. I'll give you another, let's do 20 minutes. And then I'll come back in and check with you again. All right. Happy writing.
Hey, Mary.
Yeah.
Hey, sorry not to interrupt, but when we make the changes to our abstract and write a little more, would you like us to re-upload? Or
Um, to your, are you okay? Um,
for the
if it's
abstract? Yeah.
done, I, are you sure it's done?
No, no,
Do you,
no, just,
you're
but
just
when,
asking in general?
yeah,
Um,
like when we implement the changes and
it is
go
not
through more
necess-
iterations.
Yeah,
Okay,
I had hoped that it would come in your report. And unless you want more feedback before it goes into the report, and I'm thinking most of you probably not, but some of you might want a little bit of feedback before it goes back in. Just included it there. But like I said, if you want more feedback, yes, you can re-upload or just send it to me.
okay, great, thanks.
Uh-huh.
Mary, I have a question.
Yep.
So I think I might be overthinking this, but so my very first sentence of the abstract, you said use active voice instead of passive voice, and I just can't figure out how to change this into the active voice. Um,
It's okay to
it
use
says
I.
okay, okay, but
Um, if
I'm
you're sorry.
saying that, oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. If I'm saying California's lawyers were observed, that's obviously past tense.
It's also passive.
Right. How would I change that? Because it's driving me crazy. I've looked at it for like a couple minutes now.
Give me a little bit more. Give me the sentence again.
I said that this is my beginning sentence. The demographics of California's lawyers were observed to expose apparent bias. That's a shortened version of it.
Demographic data show that,
Oh, okay. Okay.
or something like that.
Okay, let me type it down.
And then show is an active verb. You know, you could do that a number of ways, but if you just start with the data, show this.
Okay. All right, that makes sense. That makes
Okay.
sense because I was trying to change the tense without rearranging the sentence and that does not work. So thank you.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to just rearrange.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, I think I've let you go a little bit longer than 20 minutes. I don't want you to get off track. Any questions while I am unmuted? Okay. I hope that means you're busily working away. I know there's quite a bit to catch up on, so I want you to use class time. So please, whatever you're doing, work on class stuff, this class. I think we gained a person or two also. We are, everyone is looking at feedback on letters to the editor and also feedback on abstracts on Google Drive. So the letters to the editor feedback is in iLearn and the abstracts are in Google Drive. And then if you don't know what to work on now, that's where the jobs report comes in. So whatever your next steps are there, please continue with that work. And I'm here to answer questions.
Did you want us to turn in a revised letter to the editor as soon as we make those corrections?
I want you to finish writing it and make sure you take that last step, read through everything with an eye toward, like, try to read it as if you're not the author, but the recipient of the letter, to see if it would strike you the way you want it to strike your senator or whoever it is you're writing to.
Okay.
So take that step also. So with an eye toward that, toward the thinking like the recipient, but also think about your writing. Read through, make sure your subjects and verbs are at the beginning of the sentences. Get rid of those parenthetical phrases and just make sure that all of the information is in the right paragraph and that you don't need to switch things around. And okay, so just think about the writing itself before you submit.
Okay.
Okay. Dennis, I just sent you an attachment in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
Just looked at the time and realized we've only got 10 minutes left of the official class. And I just want to check in and see. Okay, Zeph, see ya. check in and see if anybody has any questions. Oh, or who was it? Somebody wanted to ask about footnotes. Yes, Manny, footnotes. So, footnote, since this is supposed to be a 1-page letter and one side of 1 page, ideally, because again, these folks don't have a lot of time to read fan mail. So you're going to use a number, a superscript number at the end of any statement that you make that needs support in the form of a footnote. Then you're going to use Microsoft Word to insert a footnote for you, and it'll format this automatically for you. It will put it at the end of the page or at the end of the document, but those should be one and the same for this assignment. Does that answer your question, Manny?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, do you want me to give you a demonstration of how to do the footnotes? Like literally?
So it's because in my letter, basically I included an article where I got some information from, and I included the name of the article. Would you like me to remove the name and then just have the footnote, or what should I do?
I think it's better to include it as a footnote than to include the whole title of the article, because you're making a statement about it. You're not saying, hey, you should go read this article. And that's not like the main purpose of your letter. The purpose of your letter is you're giving your opinion, you're asking for something. So I think the footnote is a great place to put the title, that kind of information, instead of in the body of your letter.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure. Oops. I think I have given everybody feedback on any scaffolds that you've submitted and on the abstracts that you've submitted for your jobs reports. I will get to the drafts of the jobs reports next and get that to you as soon as I'm able to, hopefully later today, so that you can finalize that. Okay, I hope that everybody got some work done. I hope this was a good use of time. Uh, I didn't feel like there was anything more I could say to help you all get your assignments done. So I figured the best thing I could do was to give you time in class to work on it. So I saw at least I saw a couple of assignments come in, so that's great. And keep working, keep doing it. You got this. All right. I'll see you on Monday. You need to get you need to get some kind of jobs report into me. If it's not the final version, at least the draft version, but make it a complete draft. All right. And we're going to move on to the grants, the grant proposal writing and thinking about that on Monday. So come with ideas. And have a good weekend.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, Mary, how's it
How's it
going?
going?
Better.
Good.
Yeah, my head hurts, but I'm surviving.
Why does your head hurt?
I was up for a really long time, like it was a couple of days, and then I slept for like, 12 hours. So
Oh, well, I'm glad you got your sleep in then.
yeah.
You
So-
know, just on that note, on the note of sleep, I think you work more efficiently. One, not you in specifically, but one works more efficiently when one is well rested. So
Yeah.
try not to do that. I think you'll be more efficient without skipping
no.
sleep.
I agree with you. Yeah, no, I try not to make it a habit. It's just sometimes when the
It's the
stars
crunch.
align,
Right?
yeah, I got to do what I got to do. And I'm also trying to like tear myself out of this, clawing myself out of this hole that I've put myself into in a lot of my classes because I'm sort of behind in all of them. But I feel like I'm making progress. I feel like I'm doing it. It's just,
Good.
yeah. So
You'll get there.
yeah, thanks, and thanks for being patient with me. Sorry, it's been a hectic semester.
Okay. Everybody is struggling. Everybody is. It's not just you.
Yeah, it seems that way. Yeah,
Yeah.
it sure seems that way. Well, it's nice to know that I'm not the only one, but yeah, it still feels bad nonetheless. It's not usually like this for me when,
Yeah.
when things were normal. So with the GWAR stuff,
Yeah.
I took a look at the scaffold. So right out the gate, when I was writing the scaffold and as I've been coming back to it, I've been going back and forth on whether or not I want it to be about NASA or just science, because how it's looking right now,
Oh,
science in general.
okay.
Yeah, because how it's looking right now is I kind of have two choices, and I've kind of set myself up for two choices here. I can either have fewer sources, and by few I mean like 4, and
That's
narrow down the topic to becoming a planetary scientist, topic that's more towards like how to join NASA.
What do you want to write about?
Well, they're both very good options. The other choice is that I can make it be more sources and have it be more broad on how to be a successful career scientist. Because when I'm going through these books, there are 2 books in there and like 4 interviews and 1 statistics-based paper that I'm looking at. I'm finding very good generalizations. Then I think it's all stuff that I think people already know about. Well, I think it's stuff that generally people already know about how to become a scientist, but maybe have not like thought of them or put them all together like this.
Okay.
Or I'm sure that this has been written about before, but I'm just noticing general patterns that each scientist had a curiosity or a passion that drove their work forward, and each
Right.
career. Mhm. So yeah, what do you think sounds more what sounds better for this class? Do you think I should do general or have it be planetary science?
If it's general and if you have more sources, I think it'll take you longer to write
Okay.
because you're going to be going back and forth to those sources constantly and trying to generalize in a lot more ways than
Mhm.
if it was focused on planetary geology or planetary science.
Okay.
So maybe that's a way to help yourself out by choosing the narrower topic.
Okay. All right. And if I do that, like I was noticing in the scaffold, like you're asking about the biologist, E.O. Wilson.
Uh-huh.
He kind of uh had a lot of good points, I feel like, because his book is Letters to a Young Scientist, like recommendations like, hey, if you're an undergraduate, this is what I think you need to do. And I think that fit really well, despite that kind of content really fit well, despite it not being, he's not a planetary scientist
That's okay.
necessarily. Okay. All
That's
right, cool.
okay. I mean, it's all right to pull from disparate sources as long as your focus remains on, whatever your thesis topic ends up being.
Hmm.
If it's how to
Yeah.
become a planetary scientist or how to become a NASA scientist or one of those, make sure that everything is, that the facts that you write down, the figures that you pull out, that it's all toward that.
Okay, cool. All right, then in that case, then I think I might do how to be a planetary scientist,
Okay.
because planetary science is pretty general. It actually is very
I'm
multidisciplinary.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was like, biologists can be planetary scientists too.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
astrobiology and
Yeah.
such and so forth. So yeah, okay, cool. Well, that sounds good. All right, and then let's see. The abstract is getting. I'm following your recommendations on the abstract. It's about 260 words, 263. So I feel like it's going a little bit over, and I don't know if I have enough room to
It's,
explain every step in
you don't need to
great detail.
explain every step.
Right.
But recalling what you wrote in your abstract, I would say reduce the introductory information and include more meat of the abstract. Like, how do you, if you don't have enough room for all the steps that you need to take, maybe shorten how you're starting your abstract off or how you're ending it,
Okay.
and just lose words there.
Well, that sounds good. I mean, I have the draft here. Would you like to just take a peek at it, or should I
Sure.
just email it to you? Or I'm not sure how much time you have.
Drop it in the chat.
Okay, drop it in the chat. Got it. Here it comes. Network disconnect.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I'll retry.
How are
Network
you still
disconnect.
here? Okay,
Um,
that's weird. Just email it to me then.
cool. While I'm doing that, I've got some notes here, questions. Where did it go? Yeah, let me just get the draft to you.
And what are you sending? You're sending a draft abstract?
Yeah. This is after
Yeah.
your recommendations and thinking about it more. Yeah, and the
Okay.
scaffold.
Okay. I will get back to you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Are you working on that right now, or do you have other things that you got to get to?
Right. So what do you think would be more useful in terms of structure? Because right now, like I said, a lot of them are interviews. Do you think it would be, so I have two structures that I'm looking at doing. Going over each scientist history briefly, like each person that I'm looking at, let's say 4, and then
Okay.
extracting out the general steps at the end,
Uh-huh.
and then going in with that stuff, that analysis, and then the conclusion. Or I can go over each step kind of like first, and then talk about how each scientist, like what they
Ooh.
did at each step. So that's like a structure
Yeah,
question.
it can go either way. At first, I was until you said that last bit, I was thinking the first way would be better, like briefly introduce, like as in, you have your introductory paragraph, maybe like the second paragraph is, these are the interviews, these are the people that were interviewed and this is what they said. But I like the second way you framed it better.
Okay, so that would be going over each step. So like almost talking about, here's what I found the steps were.
Yeah.
This.
And then reference to the people.
Yeah.
Or cite their individual experiences, or cite, what they said.
Sure. So like, let's say if it was, so the first step I'm seeing that I'm abstracting out of reading these interviews and everything is like, the first one is a passion or a curiosity in a scientific subject. So I could say like, the first step I found was that they were curious about their scientific field of study, and they incorporated that curiosity into their work.
Can you be
And
more
so,
specific about that? Like, can you say they took their interest in rocks as a kid to become a planetary geologist, or
right, yeah,
because you can't exactly drum up a passion. That's not something you can manufacture, but maybe if
right.
there were specific ideas of this person took this passion and turned it into a career this way,
yes,
that
yeah,
would be much better.
so that would be like person A, and then maybe a few sentences later it'd be like person B. Neil deGrasse Tyson was inspired because he had
Yeah.
a telescope when he was living in the Bronx or something like that.
Yeah, you can use those as examples.
Right. To
Um,
illustrate those steps, right?
yeah, and so maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson's example of a telescope is, give your kids the tools they might need to develop the passion,
hmm
or get yourself, or find a way to access them
Mhm.
through local universities or something.
What I'm finding on that one in particular, on that step, is that actually it's definitely tools, but it's also like an experience. Like they had an experience that changed them, that made them think either differently, or like it was such a profound experience that they were just like, oh, I want to do that again. So like for Neil, it was like he, went to a planetarium for the first time, and he was like, bewildered by all the stars in the planetarium, not knowing that there were so many. Or there was another guy who was taken on field trips to look at outcrops in a math class, and then that's what eventually led him to developing quartz shocked metamorphism, like way down along the line.
I think that's really interesting, those two examples. Talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, cool.
Turn those ideas into sentences and you got it.
All right. Yeah, I'm still, again, I'm not really sure if I want to do like going over each person and then extracting the steps at the end, or going over each step. But it seems, what do you think? It seems like number 2, right? Going over
Well,
each
what you
step.
could do, you could start by writing about the individuals,
Yes.
and
Okay.
then if you decide that you don't like that format, it's always easy to pull those sentences out and put them in their respective section.
Oh,
Like
I
if
see.
it's about passion, you could always put that sentence in the passion section. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yeah, sure. So that's kind of like a mixture of both, right?
Well, yeah. Or you could like start one way with the backup plan if you don't like it.
Cool. I like that. Yeah, maybe if I do kind of both, introduce, extract out the steps, then go over the steps and illustrate why
Yeah.
that's the case. Does that make sense?
Sometimes in writing, you just have to try it before you realize it's successful or it's a failure.
Okay. Yeah,
No, seriously. So
that's true. Yeah.
if you can, I think the way to do this, to find out if it'll work, I'm not sure it'll work so well to go from the topic to the person, but it will work. I think it'll be relatively easy to go from the person to the topic if you decide to go the other direction. So I would start
Okay.
by summarizing each of those interviews and
Okay.
what the paths were for those people.
The paths. Okay.
But keep the topics that you're like, your 4 bullet points or whatever it is going to be, have a passion. I don't remember the others, but like
Got
keep
it.
that one bullet point for everybody. And if you need to, then you can always just like take those out, put them in the passion section
And rearrange it.
and
Okay.
rearrange it.
All right. Nice. Okay. Well, that sounds great. Thanks. I'm gonna go ahead and I think that's good enough for now. I'm gonna send you the abstract.
Yeah,
Thanks for your time.
you're welcome.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'll be so the good part is this week I only have to just do this essay. So I'm like,
Oh, that's great.
I'm pretty stoked that like I have a good amount of time. Things are kind of late, but I still think I can get a final draft in by Monday. So
Super.
okay, cool.
Okay.
All right. Thank you,
Good
Mary.
luck.
Really appreciate
Bye.
it.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.